AI in action. Real-world case studies and lessons learned. The panelist is Mohammed Gause, Chief Strategy and Transformation Officer, BCX. The moderator is Keamo Mosepele. Artificial intelligence is no longer just a concept in African tech circles. It's in the sports field, bank, car, home, in our hands, in the lab driving solutions to the continent's most complex challenges. In South Africa, Aerobotics is applying AI drone footage, helping farmers detect pests and crop stress before it spreads. This precision in agriculture is improving yields and reducing costs, especially for commercial growers adapting to climate change. Meanwhile, in Nigeria, 54Gene is leveraging AI and genomics to map diseases and develop precision medicine tailored for African populations, filling a long-standing gap in global health research. And across the continent, companies like Lelapa AI are building multilingual chatbots and AI tools in African languages, ensuring digital inclusion starts with language equity, not just connectivity. For African innovators, these breakthroughs don't come easy. Each of these innovators still have many challenges to navigate. The biggest is tailoring their innovations to fit the people of this continent first.
So what an interesting day we have had, just exploring the role of AI across multiple industries. And I am proud to begin the latter end of today's summit, where we will be exploring real-life applications of this disruptive tool. So thanks so much for joining us, and officially welcome to the stage. We've gotten a bit of a preview on some of the practical applications within the African continent, but yourself at helm of a leading technology company. Just give us your observations of the real application of AI.
Thank you, Keamo. It's a pleasure being here. Very interesting question. I think we've probably had a bit of overload of AI today, and AI has been hyped for a long time. The critical question is, how do we apply it and how do we get value from it in a commercial sense, for society as a whole, and what are the typical types of use cases? So hopefully, after all the discussions that we've had, some of the use cases that I'll bring to bear will start highlighting how the technology is being harnessed to solve real problems. But one of my observations has been that, certainly in the South African context, my sense is that the role of technology is not fully appreciated by all organizations. Now, I know it's a very broad, sweeping statement, but how technology enables business and the role it plays and what prominence it has is something that has not necessarily received the kind of recognition. So it sometimes gets relegated into, let the IT people figure out how to use it, let them play with it, let's build some skills and capabilities, and then we'll try and see how we can apply it. So hopefully some of the examples that I bring will show that we can be quite innovative. There were some challenges that we came about earlier in terms of how is Africa going to leapfrog, how do we use it, and hopefully some of these examples will highlight the potential if we really become creative and innovative.
Yeah. Do you mind also getting into some of those examples you've made?
Certainly. Before I do that, Keamo, if I can just paint a picture of why I think it's important. So there was a study that was commissioned last year, and some of the key findings from it was that the AI market in Africa is projected to have an economic value of worth $16 billion by 2030. And for it to have an economic impact of $1.2 trillion, and also the potential to enable 230,000 digital jobs. So the prize is worth really taking this quite seriously. The fiery Fireside chat spoke about how do we localize it, bring the infrastructure, etc. But already we're seeing very unique cases solving African problems. Let me start with two examples in the health sector. And we had a panel earlier this morning talking about some of the challenges especially when we have challenges in terms of reaching populations in rural locations or inaccessible places. This was a massive problem in Rwanda. And the ability to get drugs, vaccines, and blood to very remotely located clinics and hospitals was quite acute, resulting in very high levels of mortality. So a company called Ubwenwa came up with this, that's wrong, Zipline.
Yeah.
They started deploying drones to deliver medication. But what was unique, where they applied the AI technology, is to look at weather data, to look at the terrain, where there were no roads. And these drones were fully autonomous. That means they could fly by themselves, avoid obstacles, and reach their destinations quite safely, and deliver the medication. At the back end, they applied AI technology to predict what medication would be required at which facility, when, because you also don't want to deliver medication too early, especially if it needs to be kept frozen and you don't have that facility. So this has proven to be quite successful. There are lots of stats that show how successful it has been, but some critical factors around that. The company Zipline now supports 4,800 hospitals across 5 countries, and they serve a population of over 50 million people. They do, on average, 1 delivery every 60 seconds, and those drones have already flown more than 150 million kilometers. That's the drones. Another challenge, and this was in Nigeria, and the professor was right. You'll see some of these examples and case studies come from Rwanda, Kenya, and Nigeria.
Yeah.
So in Nigeria, but this is not a Nigerian problem, the issue of prenatal asphyxia. This is when a child is born and is deprived of oxygen. The intervention has to be rapid, and there's a very short window to address that. And if you don't, it could result in mortality or disability because of the brain gets damaged with the lack of oxygen. The solution in well-developed societies and countries is to have what they call a blood oxygen analyzer. That comes at a price tag of $20,000 per unit, and it requires specialized skills to operate it.
Yeah.
Clearly not a solution that can be deployed en masse in these types of environments. So a company called Ubwenwa in Nigeria came up with a solution. They created an app to put on your mobile phone, and what the app does, at childbirth, it listens to the sound of the child's cry. And it uses the biomarkers in those sounds,
Wow.
maps it against a database that they have developed of more than 10,000 babies' cries that they've refined over a period of time. The accuracy that they have currently is 90% accuracy in terms of being able to predict an issue with that. And that comes at $10 per use.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is the kind of differentiated technology that can be applied and solving problems that are not your run-of-the-mill problems, you're thinking really out of the box. What the company has further done is they've taken that data, and now they're sitting on, and the issue about data and how we use it and monetizing came up. So they've now created an app called Nanny, and you can use that to measure your child's breathing patterns, cries, and that will tell you what the issue with the child may be, whether it's hungry. It'll suggest to you feeding times, etc. And that's an app that's available on the App Store. It's like on Play Store or Apple, on Google's Play Store or on the App Store. So it shows how solving a problem can, one, help the societal challenge and provide a real benefit. On the other side, it's also can be monetized and provide value and benefit.
So you've given us a lay of the land, not only within the South African context, but rather throughout the various corners of the continent. And you made earlier mention that you feel the scale of adoption or organizational buy-in is not where it needs to be now. Now, taking into consideration the various examples that you have mentioned that easily are at the disposal of a number of people, one, what do you think the powers that be, I'm talking about whether it be policy, government, in the African context, needs to do to adopt this tool a lot faster?
I think it's a great question. I think there's a lot of this, if you think about it, where these two solutions I mentioned, and I understand it's only two, where have they originated? It's from startups or people that have not existed. It's not a corporate solution. It's not a solution driven by a medical company. It's a startup that sees a problem and looks at an innovative and a creative way to solve for that problem. What I think we need to do, in addition to what we've spoken about previously about infrastructure and regulation, I think there's almost an encouragement of creating these types of solutions, providing seed capital, providing funding, providing support for small groups of people that come together, band together to try and create these solutions.
Sure. Yeah.
Previously, in the previous panel, there was mention of data available for people in terms of financial inclusion and the lack of data that precludes people from participating in the formal banking sector. M-Kopa in Kenya, they saw this as an opportunity. What they did is they started advancing loans to people, but very small loans. So you can ask for a loan, and what most people are doing is to buy a cell phone or buy a smartphone. They will then ask you to pay that over a period of time. And as long as you make those payments on time, you then qualify for larger loans. And once you do that, you get for something bigger. Sometimes people will get a scooter. They will start using that to earn an income. All the time, the company has got access to your data, your behavior, what else you do. So they start building that up. And they use that to create credit history. So they don't work on the formal credit history databases that everyone else uses. They created their own. Now think of the gold mine that they sit on and how they can. So with that solution, they've disbursed $1.5 billion of loans. They have 6 million customers, and they onboard a new customer every 9 seconds. They've also created 16,000 jobs directly or indirectly as a result. So the message, or my point is, let's encourage that kind of startup industry mentality process. Let's encourage it. And as corporates, we should start embracing that and working with them. The thing about partnerships was mentioned before. That, for me, is an opportunity. Yes, we can partner with the global giants, but I think let's give a leg up to the small, innovative people, groups, companies that are trying to solve these problems. And it shows that unleashing that ingenuity and that creativity transcends the barriers and the challenges and the issues that we have. And I think we can, and again, these are all uniquely African solutions that could also have applicability elsewhere in the world. So I think we can really harness and celebrate the creativity, the potential that we have. And the world's our oyster.
So I'm getting a sense that the unique advantage within African contexts is because of the fact that we're solving for our own problems, and that has been a recurring theme, right, throughout today's conversations, where we want to adopt this tool not only to use it, but also use it to reflect our realities as Africans. I'm looking at the time, and I'm so, disheartened because we're barely getting into some of the more things that I want to establish. But one, has there been situations or cases where Africa has the leg up in their innovations versus the rest of the world? And I'm also going to squeeze in another one because I'm looking at time. When we measure success within the African context using AI, what does that look like?
Great question. Let me answer the second one first. In the African context, what it means, we start increasing financial inclusion. One of the big issues for the continent is financial exclusion. We start creating opportunities, whether it's for small enterprise, whether it's for employment. That becomes another big thing that we do. We start creating and harnessing our own data, because what we've heard also from previous speakers is a lot of these language models and databases lack the African data, with the result that you will have a bias in that data, consciously or subconsciously. By creating our own models, it gives us the ability to tweak them and tune them to our requirements, our needs, and our challenges and our problems. So it's that harnessing of that type of energy creativity, I think that's going to be the game changer for us.
Sure. And my other question about, have there been instances where Africa is in the lead in some of their applications of AI?
So I think, yes. Let me give you an example. Let's bring it to South Africa. One of the big problems in manufacturing, especially in heavy industry manufacturing, is your issue of scrap, which goes to waste, increases your cost of production and your operating costs, and the higher your scrap rate, the less your profitability. So a South African company called Data Profit developed a solution. I forget the name of the solution now, but what it does, they put hundreds of sensors on a production line, they look at the data that's coming off it, and they start using and analyzing their data to predict where failures or problems in the production will come in to try and prevent those scraps. But they take it a step further, where they suggest changes and tweaks to the production process and the settings to prevent that. So it increases the yield, it reduces the amount of scrap. They applied it at Atlantis Industries, where they manufacture engines and engine blocks for export and engine parts. Now, these are expensive components, so if you have a lot of scrap, obviously it's impacting on your profitability and your cost. Through the adoption of this technology, they were able to reduce the amount of scrap to over 50% reduction in scrap. That's the internal scrap. External scrap, which is these are gone into the industry and into the market and have to be recalled because there's a problem, was reduced to 0.1%, which is a global benchmark, which even other industries are not. So that gives you an example where we've kind of leapfrogged, gone ahead. We're now setting the global benchmark against which others will be measuring themselves. Yeah. So, that's the excitement, I guess.
Yeah.
That's the...
Yeah. I just want to squeeze in one thing. Just when we take a step back and just taking into consideration some of the examples you have mentioned, if you could play president for a day, what's one initiative or one policy you would institute to ensure Africa is in the best position possible for artificial intelligence?
Sure. That would be a great privilege to be in that position. But again, I would encourage people to start. You've got to start somewhere. I think as corporates and as society, we tend to be very risk-averse. We're very sequential in what we do. The trick is plunge yourself into it. Learn fast, fail forward, fail rapidly, but work on problems. The second thing I would say is let's be very bold and ambitious in the problems that we're trying to solve. Don't look at incremental things. And I don't mean this as with any disrespect to any of the previous speakers, but reducing the number of incidents or call volumes, that's just slightly better business. Let's think much bolder. Let's have ambitious targets that are exponential. Let's start small. And the critical and the final thought I would leave you with, the rule that you should apply. If you can't measure the ROI, then don't scale the AI. Have a goal, clear target, the prize must be clear, aim for that. So, and if you can't measure the return, then don't scale the AI.
Well, what an interesting, and unfortunately, I don't think we could really explore a little bit further, but thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your insights. AI is here, and it is now. That's all we have for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.